everybody, Coach BK here. I wanted to take a moment to kind of educate you on a little bit of anatomy and why it's important for runners and triathletes to understand some of the anatomy pieces, how gym work and yoga can help you to fix some things that are going on, how yoga can help you to isolate what exactly is going on. I want to talk a little bit about how to communicate with your coach, how to become more informed as a runner on some of the anatomy that you need to know, and be mindful of where you're getting some of your information and whatnot. So this talk kind of stemmed from working with an athlete. She has some hip issues going on, and she had communicated with me through Training Peaks that her hip flexor was hurting. And for me, as a mechanical engineer, as a 500 RYT yoga teacher, and studying in therapeutics and functionality of what's going on, that's not enough information for me. We've gotten kind of lazy in how we're talking about stuff. Hip flexor, it's a function. It's not a muscle name or whatnot. And so there's that. And so we're going to work to educate so you can communicate like, oh, this one is sore. So if you knew which one was sore, then your coach would maybe understand, well, how would that get sore? What's the synergistic muscle to help support it? Okay, so that's kind of where this stems from. And also I was reading this magazine. Okay, I was a fan of this magazine, but their picture, let me see if I can find it real quick. I can't find it real quick. They had a really good picture, kind of this, but it was wrong. It was grossly wrong. Like 5 different muscles wrong. So besides all of my training, I look up my stuff. I have a ton of books like this, right? And for any yoga teacher that is out there, especially one that is working with athletes, Ray Long is the shit. Beep. He is really good on these books. So some yoga teachers do study this type of stuff, okay? Ray Long and all of his books are very good at understanding functionally what's going on. So kind of that's where this stems from. I want to talk first of all about the psoas muscle, okay? He gets lumped into this hip flexor bucket. He's kind of not a hip flexor. He can do hip flexor stuff if your run form is such that that needs to compensate. But the psoas muscle is for pelvic bowl, lower spine stability, okay? Not really meant for hip flexion, okay? If you want to look at where he's at situated from a mechanical kind of an engineering point of view, the psoas muscle has an upper and a lower. He has fingers that attaches to your lumbar spine on both sides and then attaches to the hip crest as well to provide stability. Stability in this, you have this pelvic bowl and you have these 2 heavy legs attached to it, and then you have all this soft tissue kind of attaching, and really the only hard attachment, bone attachment to this long heavy torso sitting in this pelvic bowl is your sacral joints, which are kind of like that, right? And since some of us are women and we've had babies and we've had that relaxin muscle and we've stood like this for forever or like this or whatever, and you have one sacral joint that is hypermobile and one hip that is stronger, which happens to be on the other side, you can understand where the sacral issues come from. But a lot of that still comes from the psoas muscle being tighter on one side than the other, pulling the spine, tilting the bowl, twisting the vertebrae, scrunching the vertebrae on one side versus another. Thus we get herniated discs and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, okay? The psoas muscle is stability, not hip flexion, okay? And also the psoas muscle is not on the outside here. So the Oxygen magazine, their picture, put the psoas muscle right here where the glute is, where tensor fasciolata is. He is not on the backside. He is right here, works with the IT band to, the IT band and that muscle work to stabilize and bring in, okay? So the rest of the anatomy on here, glute medius kind of wraps around, right? Attaches on top of the hip crest on the other side. The TFL can cause some problems, comes along with your IT. I bet we get some TFL issues because we have IT band syndrome, which is actually core issues and run form issues. But he's mostly a muscle where the IT band is mostly ligament, so he's stronger. So this can kind of compensate and take the brunt of inadequate or not good running, bad habits, basically, okay? Rectus femoris is on the front side right here. The quadriceps right here. Sartorius here. Gracilis, the adductors right in here. My one goal for anatomy in 2017 is to remember that this is adduction in ad. I always get them mixed up. Okay, so psoas muscle is a stability muscle, is not a hip flexor, okay? And these muscles work kind of in conjunction. You see how they're kind of crisscrossing, and that's because that the bull does tilt and the legs can do all of this crazy stuff because the hip is a ball and socket. So you have to have the different muscles working in the different directions and attach that to accomplish all of this motion. But you know what happens when sartorius gets a little bit tight because you allow your knee to come in on your biking, but you're kind of not paying too much attention to it. Your glute medius is the synergistic muscle of that, and kind of some hamstring around the backside of that. So you're not engaging, this might not be strong enough, might not be firing as well. And so this gets tight, it attaches down into the inside of the knee with a lot of other things, which can cause some inflammation. So you can get inside knee pain from the bike, from your glute not working. It's all from the bike. You might not get the pain on the bike, but you get it on the run, because then it's weight bearing, and that's kind of where the bigger price comes in, right? So that's just one example of how understanding anatomy, like if you were to tell me, you know, it kind of hurts and it's coming down in the inside of my knee, I know almost automatically, and then I will ask you, is your knee coming in on your bike? She might be complaining about a run, but you've got to take a step back and look at it and say, you know, what's tight, what's hurting, what's the functionality of that, what's the synergistic muscle of that, go work on that. Don't necessarily maybe stretch and work out and roll and do all of that stuff on the spot that's working or that's hurting. Maybe go and do work on the other side to support it. So the gym work is where, you know, you go and you get quick bang for your buck, right? If you understand, okay, I'm going to do these exercises, they're pretty quick, they're condensed, it's not a lot. You don't need to do an hour strength workout. You can do like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of mostly strength, some stretching. This is where I put yoga and strength together, maybe 30, 45 minutes, and then I go run. Or I do that and then I go bike, okay? It can be that efficient if you understand exactly what you need to be doing, and that's kind of where good coaches come in, or a good yoga teacher comes in. Okay, do these leg workouts, do this yoga stuff, you're done, move on. It could be 30, 45 minutes, maybe 3 times a day, 3 times a week. It can be that simple. And that's where the philosophy behind all the yoga videos that I have on my website is they're in chunks, smaller chunks. So you're like, oh, I need to go work on backside shoulder strength to support my swim arm, okay? Swim arms will be quiet if you have good form and a strong back rotator cuff, right? Run form can be so drastically changed and improved on proper strength and balance within the hip girdle. And so, yeah, it's important to have your run form video done. However, if you have some systematic imbalances going on and you can balance on one leg but not the other, how effective is going and having your run form analyzed and looked at and getting these things done if you have inherent systematic imbalances? It's not going to work that great. So that's where the gym work and the yoga work comes in. Yoga is fascinating because it gives you a means of seeing which hamstring is too tight, which side I can't balance on, are my transverse abs working or not. So that's a little bit about anatomy, where the anatomy, the gym work, and the yoga kind of all come together to support triathlon. So I hope this helps. I'm going to do a lot more of these videos, and I have a lot of educational videos on my website and some beginner stuff, because it is kind of daunting and it's hard to find a good yoga class. And some you can work too hard or stretch too much and hurt yourself, and that's not what you want either. So check it out, BonnieKissinger.com, if you would like for some pretty awesome yoga stuff. Hope you're having a great day. Namaste.